Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Talking Ball podcast. I'm your host, Chase. For episode 22, we're going to be talking about some NFL football, moving on to some news. Then we'll be talking about college sports as always, and NBA basketball is in full force. I'm going to be doing NBA as the same way I do NCAA sports, just as like a spreadsheet of the scores, best performers, stuff like that. And then we'll just talk about the big games, the notable games throughout the week, because there's just not a lot of time to talk about every single game that's happened in the past week, sports-wise. So we're going to jump right into it with some NFL, as we normally do, and we'll go from there. So we're going to start off with Saints-Vikings. Pretty good beating here from the Saints. Career day for Alvin Kamara. In this one, the Saints win 52-33 as they secure their first spot in the NFC South. Drew Brees didn't play great in his comeback. Only 311 yards isn't bad. 2 interceptions, though. No scores. But it didn't matter because Alvin Kamara had it handled. He had 155 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. That is tied for the most ever since like 1929. And he really should have had 7 because they lined up. They were on like the 3-yard line, 1-yard line. And instead of handing it to Kamara, they let Taysom Hill run it in. But still, 6 touchdowns, insane. Crazy game from Kamara. Emmanuel Sanders led the way in receiving, 83 yards. As for the Vikings, this is a tough loss to put them even farther behind the playoff hunt. With Chicago obviously in second place in the NFC North, and the Vikings needed this one to start clawing their way back. Kirk Cousins, they played all right all around, 291 yards and 3 touchdowns, 1 to Thielen, 2 to Irv Smith, and then they had 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 from Cook and 1 from Boone, but just couldn't stop Kamara. The defense had no answer for Alvin Kamara on the ground. Obviously, they gave up 6 touchdowns to him. 7 touchdowns total. It's going to be hard to win a game when your defense gives up 7 touchdowns in a game. Good win for the Saints to push their lead in their division a little bit further, and a bad loss for the Vikings, pushing them even farther out of playoff contention. Moving on to another blowout. This one's even worse. Bucs-Lions. 47-7. Bucs win. The Lions' only score was a punt return touchdown from Jamal Agnew. And Matthew Stafford got hurt early in the game, causing 2 backup quarterbacks to take some reps in the game. The Bucs improved to 2-5 or 10-5, second in the NFC South, right behind the 11-4 Saints. Then from recovery, an interception, 4 sacks, great play by the defense. Tom Brady played super well, only missed 5 passes, 348 yards and 4 touchdowns. Even Blaine Gabbert came in and gave the Lions 2 touchdowns. So, pretty rough game for the Lions defense, Lions offense as well. Fournette had 1 rush touchdown, and it was all receiving from then. 6 total receiving touchdowns, 2 from Gronk, 2 from Evans, 1 from Brown, and 1 from Godwin. Evans also had 181 receiving yards, along with his 2 touchdowns. Very good offensive game for the Bucs. Very good defensive game as well. Lions had no answers for anything except for the punt return touchdown, which, I mean, they needed 6 more of those to even come close. As for the Lions, they are last in their division. No shot of making the playoffs. Better luck next year. Chase Daniel and David Blau, I don't know how to say his name. They both played quarterback. Daniel had 86 yards. Blau threw an interception. Rushing leader Swift, Amendola receiving. And not much else. The Lions were very unimpressive in this one. 49ers Cardinals. 49ers squeak out a win here, 20-12. Improving to 6-9, but still last placed in the NFC West. This hurt the Cardinals more than it hurt the 49ers, both in the NFC West. And the Cardinals had a shot. Cardinals were fighting with the Rams, but now it's just even one game further back for the Cardinals. But yeah, the 49ers played well. C.J. Beathard played. They did sign Josh Rosen. He didn't get any playing time, but Beathard played well. 182 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Jeff Wilson, 183 yards on the ground and a receiving touchdown. George Kittle, in his return, had 92 receiving yards leading the way, and Kyle Juszczyk had 2 receiving yards at the fullback position. As for the Cardinals, just a rough game. Kyler Murray, 247 yards and an interception. Kenyon Drake was the only one to score with 45 yards and that score on the ground. And then Christian Kirk led the way in receiving. This game didn't benefit either team. Cardinals fall even farther behind in the NFC West, and at this point, there's no way the 49ers catching up. So this was a bad loss for the Cardinals, and looks like it's going to push them even further out of playoff contention. Moving on to Dolphins Raiders, this was a good game. A very wild finish to this one. Looked like the Raiders were gonna win it. In the final 4 minutes, there was 2 or 3 lead changes, hundreds of yards being thrown, touchdowns, field goals, pass interference, everything, and the Dolphins ended up winning it on a game-winning field goal after an insane throw by Ryan Fitzpatrick. Improving them to 10-5. The Dolphins, who are second in the AFC East, right behind the Bills, who are 12-3. They had the one fumble recovery, 3 sacks. They had both quarterbacks play. Tua started the game, I'm pretty sure. Ended up with 94 yards and a touchdown, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick came in, threw for 182 yards and a touchdown. So they both played pretty well. Myles Gaskin had 87 yards on the ground and 82 yards receiving with 2 receiving touchdowns. He was a leader in rushing yards and receiving yards. So pretty good game for the Dolphins. Cold. Good game for the Dolphins, pushing them into even farther into second place. Patriots already missed the playoffs, so this is a big end to the season for the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins. I think they're a good team. I like Tua. Fitzpatrick's always been a god. And yeah. Somebody's got to take over the AFC East. Dolphins, Bills are going to be a fun one to watch for the next few years. And as for the Raiders, they're very fortunate to be in the AFC West, because even with a record of 7-8, they are still second place and fighting for a playoff spot. Defense played well, 3 sacks. Derek Carr played pretty well, 336 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 1 in the air, 1 on the ground. Josh Jacobs couldn't find the end zone, but had 69 rushing yards. Aguilar led the way with 155 receiving yards and the touchdown from Carr. And Darren Waller also had 112 receiving yards. The Raiders are going to have to find a way to win these close games. That's a few where they've led the game or even were down by like a few in the closing minutes of the game, and they just couldn't close it out, and losing some close ones. Almost lost to the Jets as well, which would have been bad. We're going to move on to Falcons-Chiefs. Falcons should have won this game. A.J. Terrell, amazing player, but he dropped a game-sealing interception. It was 14 to, was it? I think it was 14-7 at that point. And A.J. Terrell dropped a interception in the end zone. Patrick Mahomes scored on the very next play. And that was that. Matt Ryan, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ito Smith was their leading rusher with 46 yards. I believe Todd Gurley had like 32. Doesn't seem like the Todd Gurley experiment's working too much. I think everybody thought, Falcons are back. Time to make that Super Bowl run. They got Todd Gurley, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, who's been playing well this season. But it just hasn't panned out in that way for them. Speaking of Calvin Ridley, led the way in receiving with 130 yards. And then Hayden Hurst and Laquan Treadwell had Matt Ryan's touchdowns. And as for the Chiefs, they're 14-1. Obviously, they clinched first round bye. They're first in their division. Their defense played really well with the 4 sacks. Patrick Mahomes was on one. 278 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, and he got picked on. I guess they ran a trick play, threw it up to Patrick Mahomes, and Sammy Watkins threw it up to Patrick Mahomes, who got intercepted by Keanu Neal. Damian Williams, 46 yards on the ground. Clyde Edwards-Helaire still hurt. Travis Kelce, 98 yards and a touchdown. And then Demarcus Robinson also had a touchdown. Chiefs are dangerous, man. Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things. Their defense is playing really well. So this team's going to be very, very hard to beat. And they might be looking to repeat. And I wouldn't put it past them. Browns-Jets. This was a pretty disappointing one for Browns fans, as you guys lost to the Jets. The Jets by 7. You're still 10-5, which isn't bad, but it does drop you to 3rd in the AFC North behind the Ravens and the Steelers. Very possible you still make it to the playoffs, but you're going to need some work to do in this tail end of the season. Baker Mayfield didn't score, but had 285 yards. And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt scored on the ground for the Browns. Austin Hooper led the way in receiving. And as for the Jets, who are 2-13, last in the AFC East, they haven't even clinched the 2nd overall pick. But they've lost the 1st overall pick, as it will be going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everybody's saying they're going to... We'll talk about the Jaguars later. As we see the Jets' defense played really well. Had the 2 fumble recoveries and 4 sacks. Sam Darnold played all right, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Jamison Crowder threw a 43-yard touchdown to Braxton Berrios on a trick play. Frank Gore, 48 yards on the ground. Jamison Crowder also led the way in receiving with 92 yards and a touchdown. And then Berrios and Herndon had a touchdown to the air. I mean, I don't know why they're doing it now, but the Jets are putting together some wins. I don't know why they waited till they were 0-13 to do so, but they're putting together some wins. So it's going to be interesting to see how they end the season. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the off season, and then how they do next year. Colts Steelers. This was a choke job by the Colts. They should have won. They were up like 17, something like that. And the Steelers come back to win 28-24. The Colts are 10-5. They're second in the AFC South, right behind the Titans, who also are 10-5. Phillip Rivers played okay. 270 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Jonathan Taylor on the ground scored twice, and Pascal had with a 1 touchdown. The Raiders are 12-3, first in their division. A fumble recovery and an interception from Hilton helped out on the defensive end, and 5 sacks, 2 of them from Watt, helped out tremendously. Ben Roethlisberger played well, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns. They had less than 50 rushing yards. And their leading rusher was James Conner with 20 yards and a touchdown on 5 carries. It almost lost you the game. I would have been having the same conversation if this score was like 24-21, Colts win, and you guys had less than 50 rushing yards. That's not going to fly in the playoffs, man. That's not going to fly in the playoffs, because if Ben has a bad game and you guys can't get a run game going, it's over. You're done. You're done for. Goodbye. Goodbye 12-3. Goodbye 11-0. It doesn't matter. You need to establish a run game, man. 20 yards on your leading rusher? This isn't going to... It worked this time. But your last 3 losses, you've had less than like 50 rushing yards apiece. And you've lost every single game. This game, you got lucky with not having to run the ball. The Colts defense had a brain fart in the second half. Juju almost breaks 100. 96 yards and a touchdown. And then Deontay Johnson and Eric Ebron each caught a touchdown. So yeah, good win from the Steelers here. Colts are a good team. Very good offensive line. So to get 5 sacks on the Colts is pretty impressive. Phillip Rivers isn't bad. He's been playing well this season. Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, very good breakout stars at the running back position. You got weapons like T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., Zach Pascal, all good players. Colts look like they had this in the bag, but they did not. So good win by the Steelers. Tough one from the Colts. Both very good teams. They're right there. Moving on to a very bad team, and the Bears. The Bears win, though, 41-17. A dominating performance from the Bears. Roquan Smith had 2 interceptions. Mitch Trubisky played well, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, a touchdown on the ground, and then he did throw an interception. David Montgomery on the ground, 95 yards in the touchdown, and Pierce also had a touchdown on the ground. Allen Robinson led the way in receiving yards with 103. And Jimmy Graham caught both of Trubisky's touchdowns for 69 yards. Oh. The Jaguars are 1-14. Obviously last in their division. Number 1 pick guaranteed for them. And a lot of people think it's going quarterback. A lot of people think it's going Trevor Lawrence. And, I mean, man, I've been saying I like Minshew, but, I mean, I never thought that they would get the first pick. But now you do, and you have a chance to draft Lawrence. And that might be a risk you want to take. It's not even really a risk. You know, you can get rid of Minshew. You can trade Minshew. He's a good quarterback, and I'm sure somebody would love to have him on the team. It's just been a rough season for the Jags in general. A lot of injuries. James Robinson didn't play in this one. That's your one diamond in the rough right there, James Robinson. You actually have a good core of young talent, both offensively and defensively. You got DJ Chark, who is, a Pro Bowl caliber receiver. Laviska Shenault hasn't done bad. He's been great at receiver. James Robinson's been way amazing. You get a young quarterback. You shore up that O-line. And just shore up that defense. Josh Allen. Wow, I just brain farted like half their defense. Yeah. Josh Allen. Miles Jack. Anyways, maybe you do go Lawrence. I think whatever they do, they're going to be better next year. Minshew's great and all, but a banged-up quarterback is worse than a bad quarterback. Because then you're going to have to put in a bad quarterback, regardless. Mike Glennon is a solid quarterback, but he's not going to win the games. 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. No James Robinson in this one. So Ogun Bawale got the start. He had 71 yards on the ground. DJ Chark led the way with 62 yards receiving and a touchdown. And Shenault had 48 yards and a touchdown. So you got some bright young talent. Just gotta shore up your defense. Obviously giving up 40 to the Bears hurts. You can score. You can score the football. With James Robinson, Mike Glennon threw 2 touchdowns. So you get a good quarterback in there. And we're talking. We're talking big things with Jags, but as of right now, they are the worst team in the league. And yeah, Trevor Lawrence, welcome to Jacksonville. Moving on to Giants-Ravens. This was a big game for the Giants. This was a big game for both of them, really. The Giants needed this to stay in the hunt, stay tied for first place, really, in their division, but they fall to 5-10 and are third behind the Cowboys and the Washington football team. Daniel Jones, 252 yards, touchdown, played all right. Wayne Gallman, rough day on the ground for the Giants. Only 27 yards was their leading rusher. And Sterling Shepard had 77 yards and a touchdown. Rough game for the Giants there and their defense. They just had the one fumble recovery. But as for the Ravens, they improved to 10-5. This was a big win for them because now they control second place in the AFC North, surpassing the Browns. Their defense had 6 sacks, including 2 from Board. Lamar Jackson played well, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gus Edwards led the way in rushing, and J.K. Dobbins had a touchdown on the ground. Mark Andrews led the way in receiving, and Marquise Brown and Des Bryant each had a touchdown. Good game there from the Ravens. The Ravens struggled a bit early, but this team's scary. This isn't a team you want to see in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson isn't a quarterback you want to see in the playoffs. He's just so two-dimensional. Probably the best, if not, or second best, if not the best dual-threat quarterback in the league right now. Guys like Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, along with that, even Josh Allen. But Lamar Jackson is the best running quarterback in the league. 100%. His passing ability is great. His running ability is better. But he's still not a guy that I want to see in the playoffs. And this defense is a very good defense. I think the Ravens' defense is very underrated. And I get it's the Giants, but I just think they're a very good defense. Matthew Judon, Calais Campbell, Marlon Humphrey, Chuck Clark, all those guys. Great defensive guys. They even got, J.K. Dobbins is getting in there. Gus Edwards is a great running back. You have receivers. You got Des Bryant, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews. This is a good team. This is a good team. They can make a run. And their biggest competition is gonna be the Chiefs. Moving on to Bengals Texans. Rough one here for the Texans. Pretty much diminishing any hope they had, if any. Bengals win 37-31. The Bengals are last in their division. Obviously, it's the division with the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns. All 10-win teams. So, Bengals are for 4-10-1. Brandon Allen played well. 371 yards, 2 touchdowns. P. Ryan, I don't think, that's not Samaje Perine. He had 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins almost had 100 through receiving. He had 99 and a touchdown. And then Irwin also had a touchdown. Big year next year for the Bengals. Their draft O-line, draft defense. I think your skill players on offense is fine. Joe Mixon's good. Giovanni Bernard's good. P. Ryan's good. You're going to have Joe Burrow coming back. You have T. Higgins. You have A.J. Green, if you can keep him around. You have Taj Boyd. You don't even need to keep A.J. Green around. Draft a receiver. Draft some O-linemen. Draft defense. Sign some guys in free agency. And this team is a good team. I believe Joe Burrow makes this team so much better. If he didn't get hurt, we could be talking a little bit better of a record. Maybe nothing in the playoff hunt. Just being honest. But next year, I think Joe Burrow is going to have a crazy year. If he plays. I hope he plays. But if he's not feeling 100%, that's his call. As for the Texans, they fall to 4-11. They are third in the AFC South. Not much of a playoff hope for them. Deshaun Watson played well, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns. David Johnson actually played pretty good. 128 yards, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. Brandon Cooks, 141 yards in the air and a touchdown. And Darren Fells also had a receiving touchdown. This team, it was very disappointing. It all started with DeAndre Hopkins getting traded for David Johnson. That was bad. They fired. Wow, I forgot his name. Bill O'Brien and their GM. Then they release Kenny Stills. Will Fuller gets hit with a suspension. Just rough season for the Texans. They looked very promising at the beginning of the year. Deshaun Watson, Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller. Their defense was alright. J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless. But it's just been a rough season. Guys going down, guys getting traded. And now we're at 4-11. On the Broncos-Chargers. 3-point win for the Chargers. They're usually on the 3-point loss side, but they got the win this time. Broncos are 5-10. They're last in their division, AFC West. Drew Lock made some pretty bad mistakes. 264 yards, 2 interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. Not much else to talk about the Broncos there. The Chargers are 6-9. Third in the AFC West. They had the 2 interceptions and 2 sacks from the defense. Justin Herbert played well, 253 yards and a touchdown. Austin Eckler had 45 yards rushing and had a receiving touchdown. And then Mike Williams led the way in receiving with 54 yards. Pretty mad game there. Chargers hoping to make a little last-second push for the playoffs. They're gonna have to pull something out, but the Broncos are looking to next year. Moving on to Panthers and football team. I don't really know what to call them. I call them Washington football team. I don't know. But Panthers football team. Panthers win 20-13 and improved to 5-10. Still last in the NFC South. Looking to next year on this one. Their defense played well. They had 2 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, and 3 sacks. And Teddy Bridgewater played pretty good. 197 yards, a touchdown, and threw a pick. Mike Davis had a rushing touchdown. And Curtis Samuel had 52 yards rushing and 106 yards receiving. And Robbie Anderson had the 1 touchdown. Rough loss for the football team. They fall to 6-9. They are first still in the NFC East, tied with the Cowboys, but they get the tiebreaker. Washington really needed this win to solidify that first place. They also needed the Cowboys to lose, which didn't happen. But Washington still sits in first, and they're still looking to make that push to secure that playoff berth. And I hope they do. I'd rather see Washington than Andy Dalton and the Cowboys. Dwayne Haskins, who was released shortly after the game, 154 yards, 2 interceptions. I guess I shouldn't have told you that. I'm going to get to that later. But there you go. And Heineke, I don't know if that's how you say his name. Heineke came in, 137 yards and a touchdown. Antonio Gibson, 61 yards on the ground, and J.D. McKissick had 77 yards in the air and the touchdown. For Washington to, and I know it's a weird division. Don't get me wrong. Cowboys would be running that shit most likely if Dak never got hurt. But Washington would very possibly still be in second place. Which is very impressive. The quarterback carousel that's been going on down there with Haskins, Alex Smith, now I think his name's Taylor Heineke, how do you say his name? The emergence of Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin's playing well. So yeah, and their defense is playing extremely well with Chase Young, and their secondaries playing very well. Couldn't pull this one out. Still securing first as of right now. But we're going to move on to the team that's threatening them, the Cowboys. The Cowboys beat up on the Eagles 37-17. The Eagles are last place in that division, 4-10-1, and they are going to look to develop Hurts a little bit more. I don't think there's a world. 4-10-1, and then 6-9 is first place. I don't want to say there's a world where the Eagles can make the playoffs, but there might be. Has that ever even happened? A team in last place in their division with like 2 weeks to go, however many weeks are left, win or make the playoffs? I don't know if that's ever happened. This could be the year for it to happen though, in the NFC East. But as for this one, they lost. They did have an interception off Dalton. Jalen Hurts played okay. He made some mistakes here and there. He had 342 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Miles Sanders had 57 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And Deshaun Jackson I don't know if it was the actual first play of the game, but Deshaun Jackson had 1 catch at the beginning of the game for 81 yards and a touchdown. And they didn't throw a single pass to him the rest of the game. He had 1 catch for 81 yards and a touchdown. And they didn't throw him the ball again. Eagles. I don't know, man. The O-line, the defense, all the above. It's just been rough season. Carson Wentz not panning out. Jalen Hurts coming in playing well. So maybe that's something to look forward to in the future. Jalen Hurts. As for the Cowboys, they improved to 6-9, moving up to second place in the NFC East. They had a fumble recovery from Smith and 2 interceptions, one from Brown, one from Diggs. Andy Dalton, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Ezekiel Elliott finally did something. 105 yards on the ground, no touchdowns, but 105 on the ground. CeeDee Lamb had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Michael Gallup had 121 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Amari Cooper also had 121 yards receiving. Cowboys. I don't even know if I want to make the playoffs. Risk any extracurricular injuries. You're not going to make a playoff run. If you win one game maybe. But that's risking a lot of, injury. And, I'd rather miss the playoffs than make the playoffs and Ezekiel Elliott tears his ACL or something. God forbid. But at this point, if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be like, I don't even care. Don't make the playoffs. You're not gonna win anything without Dak Prescott. I don't think Andy Dalton is gonna pull a Nick Foles and carry this team through the playoffs into a Super Bowl. I just don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah, Cowboys. Rams Seahawks. Good win here for the Seahawks, 20-9, as the Rams lose 2 in a row and fall to 9-6. They're still second place because the Cardinals lost. They did have 5 sacks, including 2 from Floyd. Jared Goff, 234 yards and an interception. He played the game with a dislocated / fractured thumb. I'm pretty sure he's not going to play against the Cardinals, which is a huge game. And Kyler Murray might not even play for the Cardinals in that huge game. Henderson, 62 yards on the ground, and Cooper Kupp, 66 yards in the air. The Rams' offense has just looked very lackluster in these last couple weeks. Their defense is playing well, but the loss to the Jets and now the loss to the Seahawks, their offense is kind of stuttering. And now that Jared Goff has a broken thumb, it might get even worse. So, as for the Seahawks, they're 11-4 and first in the division. Russell Wilson played well, 225 yards, a passing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. Chris Carson led the way with 69 yards on the ground, and Metcalf had 59 through the air, and Jacob Hollister had Russell's receiving touchdown. The Seahawks are a very interesting team. Their defense sucks. They played really well in this one with the pick and the 3 sacks, and only giving up 9 points. But they suck. Their secondary's bad. Their offensive line is bad. Their defensive line is bad. They're just bad. They have good linebackers. They have Russell Wilson, good receivers, great running backs. Skill-wise, they're great. Offensive line, defense, meh. They definitely need to shore up that defense, and they need to shore up the offensive line going into the playoffs, or they're gonna get exposed by the Packers or the Rams or something. Speaking of Packers, they put the beat down on the Titans, 40-14. And the Titans fall to 10-5. They are still first in their division. And will look to make a playoff push. Ryan Tannehill played pretty bad. 121 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. 11 for 24. Couldn't hit a lot of passes. Derrick Henry had 23 carries and 98 yards. And Jonnu Smith caught the 1 touchdown, and A.J. Brown had 43 yards receiving. Packers improved to 12-3. They're still first. They had 2 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers played crazy, 231 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did throw an interception. A.J. Dillon. Not Corey Dillon. Right? A.J. Dillon. 124 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Devontae Adams had 142 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. And St. Brown had 1 touchdown. The Packers are good. They're very good. Aaron Rodgers is playing with some sort of vengeance. Maybe from last year when they lost to the very disappointing 49ers. But Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers look like they got something to prove, and they're proving it this year, for sure. When it comes playoff time, hopefully they can prove the same thing. Our last game, I don't even care to talk about too much. Bills-Patriots, 38-9. Bills obviously first, Patriots last. Patriots aren't making the playoffs. Bills will be the first seed. Josh Allen, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, 145 yards for Diggs, and 3 touchdowns. Jarrett Stidham played. Cam Newton had a rushing touchdown. Sad. On to news. Some NFL news for you. The 49ers signed Josh Rosen off the Bucs practice squad. He didn't play. But Nick Mullins is hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt. CJ Beathard played well, though. Giants signed Logan Ryan to a contract extension, 3 years, $31 million. Pretty good for him. He was very good with the Titans. Signed with the Giants. Wanted a new change of scenery. Wanted to be the main focus on that defense, and he is. He's playing well. Him and James Bradbury are really shining down for that Giants defense. Quan Alexander for the Saints tears his Achilles. Very sad, ending his season. Get well soon. Tom Brady breaks the Buccaneers passing touchdown records. Breaks the record for passing touchdowns in a season. Holy crap. 34. He becomes the second quarterback to hold the record for 2 different teams. The Buccaneers, 34 touchdowns, and the Patriots with 50. Peyton Manning is the other quarterback to do that, with the Colts, 49 touchdowns, and the Broncos, 55 touchdowns. I said it a little earlier, but Washington released the 15th overall pick, Dwayne Haskins. Very, very lackluster play, breaking rules related to COVID. Just a very bad locker room guy. Don't want him around. Good move by Washington. I think he's a good quarterback. I think a team will scoop him up, put his head on his shoulders the right way, and could be a decent quarterback, but not in Washington. Stephon Diggs breaks the Bills franchise record for the most catches in a season. So good for him. He's going crazy with Josh Allen down in Buffalo. That was a great signing from the Bills. And they're going to be a scary team. As for NBA news, NBA legend, Celtics legend, Casey Jones passed away at 88. So rest in peace to him. That's real sad, really sad. The Clippers broke the record for the largest deficit going into halftime against the Mavericks. They were losing 77-27. They were losing by 50 points at halftime. They ended up losing the game by 52. Not the worst loss in NBA history. That was 68. Marquise Chris broke his leg in practice. So he is out for the season. That's very sad. Very, very sad. I love Marquise Chris. I think he is due for a breakout season. He struggled with injuries last year. And now, just right at the beginning of the season, he's going to be out for the rest of the season. And another bad one, Spencer Dinwiddie partially tears his ACL, and he is out for the season for the Nets. Tough loss there. Both those guys, very, very tough losses. For some NCAAA football news, the Heisman Trophy finalists have been announced. Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, Kyle Trask from Florida, Mac Jones from Alabama, all quarterbacks there, and Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama, who had the crazy game a few weeks ago and has just been tearing it up all season. And some sad news, the Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, Ty Jordan from Utah, died from, they said, was an accidental self-inflicted gunshot wound. So he accidentally shot himself. So very, very sad. Very, very sad for him. Condolences to his family. As for basketball, college football, and NBA, we're gonna hit NBA first. It'll be pretty quick. Actually, it's not gonna be quick. It's gonna be the exact opposite of quick. The longest one, but some good games here and there. It'll be up on the screen, just like football and basketball. But I will go through some of the big games here. Obviously, the Mavericks-Clippers game ended 124-73. Cavs are winning big. Colin Sexton's doing great. They're 3-0. They beat the Sixers. And the Pistons and the Hornets. The Nets beat the Warriors on opening day, and the Clippers beat the Lakers on opening day. Celtics beat the Bucks on a crazy Jason Tatum game winner. Trae Young's been going off, 37 points against the Bulls in the win, and the 36 points against the Grizzlies in the win. CJ McCollum dropped 44 against the Rockets with 9 3-pointers. Domantas Sabonis was the player of the week for the NBA. Not my player of the week, the NBA's player of the week. He had a triple-double in this one, 22, 10, and 11. And he had 18 and 10 in the last one. Trae Young had 29 in the win against the Pistons. Just some pretty good games all around. Duncan Robinson breaks the record for most threes made on Christmas Day with 7, and then Kyrie Irving follows it up with another 7 3-pointer game. Chris Middleton had 5 or 6, which is like 4th or 3rd for Christmas games, as the Bucks beat the Warriors by 39. The Knicks beat the Bucks by 20 on Julius Randle's 29-14. The Golden State Warriors beat the Bulls by 1 on a Damian Lee game winner, with Steph Curry scoring 36. And Sabonis scored 32 and 13 in this win over the Knicks. And so pretty good all around for the first week of games here. Colin Sexton's playing well, 32 points in this one, 27 in the first game. And Trae Young's playing really well. Domantas Sabonis is playing good. The guys who you think would play good are playing well. Jokic had a pretty big triple-double against the Rockets in their win. 19 points, 12 rebounds, 18 assists. First center since Wilt Chamberlain to have 18 assists in a game. So that's cool. And that's going to do it for basketball. We're going to get onto NBA basketball. We're going to get onto college basketball. Player of the week in college basketball has got to be Dosunmu. Dosunmu, 30 points in each of their games. 2 big wins for Illinois. Garza played well this week. He put up 22 in their win over Purdue, but they lost. They lost to Minnesota Even though Garza had 32 points and 17 rebounds, Carr came through with a 30-pointer to take down number 4 Iowa. Around the league, other than that, Ohio State, number 23, beat up on number 11 Rutgers, beat them by 12. Washington had 22 points in that one. And North Carolina goes down to NC State, unranked NC State, beats them by 3 on 21 from Daniels. Some narrow wins. Man, Missouri beats Bradley by 1. Texas Tech beats Oklahoma by 2. Northwestern takes down Ohio State by 1, 71-70 off 23 points from Kopp. Kispert, I believe it was the school record for most threes made in a game with 9. He had 32 points against Virginia in that win. And yeah, number 21 Minnesota demolishes number 17 Michigan State 81-56. Wisconsin, number 6 Wisconsin falls to unranked Maryland 70-64. And yeah. But my player of the week has to go to Dasanmu. 30 points against Penn State in a big win. 30 points against Indiana in a big win. Can't ask for much more than that. Good wins there all around. And the very final segment here, we're going to move on to college football. And it's bowl season, baby. No more top 25. It is bowl season. So we're going to do all the bowls. Doesn't matter if they're ranked or not. We got the Myrtle Beach Bowl. First up, Appalachian State demolishes North Texas 56-28. Peoples, App State's running back, 22 carries, 317 yards, 5 touchdowns. He went crazy. He might be the player of the week. He went crazy. In fact, he is going to be player of the week. Peoples from App State went off. As for the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl, number 16 BYU knocks off UCF 49-23 with Zach Wilson throwing 425 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground. Great game for him. I'd give it to him, but I gotta go Peoples, man. 317 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns? That's some Alvin Kamara stuff right there. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Nevada takes down Tulane 38-27. Strong threw 22 for 28, 271 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air for Nevada. The R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Georgia Southern wallops Louisiana Tech 38-3 off of 71 yards and 3 touchdowns from Wirtz. Memphis takes down FAU 25-10 in the Montgomery Bowl. In the New Mexico Bowl, Hawaii doubled Houston's score 28-14. The Camellia Bowl, Buffalo takes down Marshall 17-10. Marshall was undefeated, and they lost their last 2 in a row, including their bowl game. So that's a tough end of the season for Marshall. The FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl was a good one. Number 12, undefeated, Coastal Carolina gets beat by Liberty 34-37. Willis for Liberty had 220 yards. He threw 2 picks. But he did it on the ground. 137 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground for him. The Serve Pro First Responders Bowl, number 19 Louisiana, takes down UTSA 31-24. And for the Lending Tree Bowl, Georgia State takes down Western Kentucky 39-21. I believe next podcast will be, at least I think it will be the semifinals. I don't think the championship will be decided just yet. Well, it'll be decided, but it won't be done. But yeah, we got Clemson and Ohio State, and then Alabama and Notre Dame. So it's gonna be some pretty good ones. I think Ohio State has a good shot. I think Clemson's really good, and Notre Dame's good. I hope they beat Alabama. I hate Notre Dame. I hate Independent. It's so dumb. But Alabama always wins, so maybe somebody else can have it this time. Anyways, man, that's gonna wrap it up. First podcast on my new PC. Anybody who's made it this far, thanks. I know you probably haven't, but new PC. Heck yeah. So I'm gonna be doing some big things there. Links all in the description for my other channels. I do have a group channel with my friends where we post our gaming stuff. I just posted my first video there yesterday. So go ahead and check that out. It will be linked in the description. I'm always on, as you know, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate 5 stars, all that. And I will be talking to you guys later. Peace out.